like they used to. Can't place your bets on the 9 to 5. Things don't work like they used to. No, there's not enough to keep you alive.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Christian Reeve Podcast. Today's guest is a retired wrestler, an actor, and a professional musician from Manchester. His name, I think, is Iain J. Christ. You've gone by many names. Welcome to the show.
That's the overarching one that I've used for longest, I guess. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Great intro as well. Thank you for... I always find when I'm introducing myself to people, I always have to lead with the day job, or if I say these things that I do, which I do, wrestler or musician, paid musician, and then I always have to go at the end, oh, and I have a day job. And I feel like I have to cue that in. So I've done it again by saying it now, but I'll take all the other things you said. Thank you.
It's true, because I think there's a general lack of respect for the arts. It's the only career path where people have that kind of attitude. I was talking to a friend the other day about this. For example, have you had a lot of questions over the years about how much you earn doing, say, wrestling or music or acting or whatever?
If I do, they're always very short conversations because essentially, you know what I mean? People don't tend to follow that line of inquiry too long before they find out.
I just find it interesting because, call me old fashioned, but I think that's kind of rude. What business is it of anyone how much you earn? And it works both ways as well. If someone works in, say, an office job, and you go, oh, great, so how much do you earn? It's excuse me? So what's the difference?
Yeah, I wonder what somebody would have to do. Maybe if they actually said they were a rocket scientist or brain surgeon, one of those, maybe I'd then, just to find out.
It's just one of them, isn't it? I think at the end of the day, maybe one day the arts will get more respect, particularly at sort of the entry level, or if you've been doing this a while. I know that I've always been judged on, I don't know, the level of followers I have, or what's the biggest project you've done, something like that.
Yeah.
And I stopped caring after a while about what people thought, because it's always based in, I don't know, it just comes from a general judgmental place, and they don't know what the fuck they're talking about unless they're doing
well, the second
the same
part
thing.
may be true. I would like to think it's more curiosity, but maybe we're in different parties.
Yeah, I'm all for general curiosity. If someone's asking what's the earning potential for, say, acting or voice acting or music? That's fair.
If they use the phrase earning potential, then you might just be on LinkedIn instead of a normal social situation.
But you take my point, right?
Yeah.
There's a big difference between someone trying to learn about what you do because maybe they want to do the same thing or they just want to learn, versus someone who's because it always be this conversation. It'd be, so how much do you earn? Okay. So don't you think that you should get a real job?
No, I don't know. People must know better than to ask me that. I don't know.
Is it
because I always say, as I said, I always end every sentence of describing my artistic endeavors with, oh, and I have a real job. So maybe that's why I don't get it quite so much.
What's your real job?
I work for an IT company, everybody in the band, I think.
Really? Nice.
Yeah, so I'm just working from this room right now.
Oh, cool. Working from home. Okay, let's talk about that for a second. How long have you been working from home?
Since COVID.
Wow. Would you say you prefer it? Is it better? Is it worse? What's the kind of feeling generally for you?
It's a net win, I think. There are elements of things that I miss out on. I don't have to commute. I don't have to have immediate supervision, which is nice. But I think, at least, going into the office and like just seeing people every day and talking to people every day, I think does give you a degree of like energy that you don't get if you don't see people for a few days. You know what I mean? Like just that's even just getting up from your desk to I don't get up from my desk. I just turn and look at something else. But yeah, I do miss the people. I think I got a certain amount of like fears and energy off of meeting people. But if it's a choice between that and not having to, getting an hour at least back every day from commuting, then I'll take that hour every day.
I think this is where the whole hybrid option is probably like the best scenario, because it's the best of both worlds, gives people the flexibility they need, and as you say, some of the access to that social element that maybe is lacking. I don't know, companies seem to have a very weird way of positioning this now. It's almost like a incentive that's added into contracts, like, "Ooh, we'll give you this, but you got to earn it." It's like, all right. That's strange, but fuck it. Let's talk about this name situation. So
yeah,
Iain J. Christ, you've also gone by Ian Korea.
Yeah.
What's the deal? What's going on
I just
here?
never liked my real surname, which I won't stress and affect myself by disclosing here. Just never a fan of it. And then started a band in high school with my mates, and I went with Ian Credible, which was just a rip off of a wrestler. There's a wrestler called Just Incredible, which is a much better version of it that I just sort of lifted, but then soon abandoned that for Iain J. Christ, which is basic, blasphemy, standard classic stuff. But in Red Dwarf, Rimmer's middle name is Arnold Judas Rimmer, and I just thought that was funny, so I stuck that in the middle, and yeah, went with that, and then started wrestling, so I needed a name for that. And I was on the radio show for a bit, so I used a different name for that. And I had a couple of wrestling names. Ian Korea was the name I used on the radio. But then when I semi-retired from wrestling and started the band, I was using my name, Ian, as like, bass Ian. So then I was like, okay, well, I can't use my wrestling name, Jet Fashion. I reverted to Ian Korea because it's got a sort of nice ring to it.
So, fun fact, I've been a fan of wrestling possibly my entire life, certainly since childhood.
Yes, that explains why you got me back on. Phenomenal. You can any wrestler will be able to and happily talk to you for hours about wrestling.
I go back and forth on it. I think I was really into what it used to be. Nowadays, I'm kind of, it's not completely died, but it's changed so much that I don't really recognize it anymore.
Things, arts and things do evolve, but certainly the WWE's not been great for a while, at least in my view. Something about the prevailing style of wrestling was a bit samey, there was a dive over the top rope every match, and then there was a super kick. Well, not so much in WWE, the super kicks, but in the indie scene, super kicks kind of took over for a bit. And everybody has like a wake up. Oh, it's a SmackDown video game term, but a wake up taunt. So like Roman Reigns does it, who's a fine example of a wrestler, especially relative to everybody else these days. His opponent's down in the corner, he will then go, "Whoa," and do something, and the opponent will slowly stand up and then turn around and then hit with the finish. And that's just like very prevalent. Like everybody's got one, and all kind of everyone hits the same things. Yeah, it's a little formulaic. And everybody has to say their name when they cut a promo. They have to say their name. They have to say their catchphrase. And these are all, at their core, good tips for presentation and marketing, but when absolutely everybody is doing it every time, yeah, not for me.
It's all I think about I've always agreed with this concept of like less is more, and I think that does apply in wrestling. Like the concept of selling. So, for those who don't know about wrestling, it's like so if you're in a fighting situation in a wrestling context, it's how much you show that you have felt pain from this particular move that you've taken. So if I slam you on your back, in theory, you shouldn't really get back up from that for a long time because I've just slammed you on your back. That hurts. But then the modern product, it's just like you just get up straight away, and I'm like, so the moves are meaningless then. It's nothing.
Yeah, that is old-fashioned in some respects, but also sort of timeless in others. It's not. The problem is you're in a wrestling scene with everybody else. You know what I mean? And they're all doing more insane moves.
So if everyone's doing this popular thing and you're not, does that mean that they're right and you're not?
No, and I personally would advocate for a reduction of intensity. I was always a low risk worker, as it was.
What was your go-to move?
Yeah, I was also one of my flaws. I didn't have that many moves. I was good at the pageantry and the talking and the taking my shirt off bit. Nailed all that. The jetpack was my finisher. So that is a crucifix pin driver, if anybody wants to get technical about it.
Is that kind of like the Razor's Edge? Or no?
No. Are you aware of the crucifix pin as a move?
Heard of it. I can't visualize it right now.
Sort of. It's difficult to describe. Sorry, audio listeners. I would, let's say, duck to your left. Sorry, duck to your right. Hook under your arm and then go round the back of you, and with my leg, hook your other arm and then fall backwards, putting you in a pinning predicament and shoulders to the mat. But I would do that rather than rolling down in a normal pin. I would sort of thrust it down. That was my finisher. I did try to invent some of my own moves once.
How'd that go?
Nobody understood what was going on with the human 619. Legibility is key. Like, this is what we're saying. Like, when everybody's moving very fast, and if there's people doing lots and lots of moves really quickly, and you'll keep moving from one thing to the next, the audience doesn't have time to read what is happening.
I mean, that's the crux of my entire argument. Is not so much that things have changed and that it's more fast paced. I accept that. Like the average wrestler just is more athletic these days. But still, like you say, if there's loads and loads and loads of stuff going on, it's A, difficult to pay attention to what's going on, and B, telling a story within the context of that is a lot harder because nothing really means anything, Like if like, I don't know, something simple. When I think of like the best wrestling matches I've ever seen, where it wasn't really about the story going into the match, but just about the match itself, it'd always be something as simple as like there was a move early on and someone smacked into another guy's knee or something, and then for the rest of the match, no matter what, that's figured in some way. And that's like, you know what I'm saying? Like that's and it could be really literal, like the guy attacks the knee the entire time, or it could be something like whenever he goes for a move, let's say he goes for a drop kick, but he stumbles because he injured his knee earlier, like stuff like that.
You got a brain for this business, kid. I'll get you in. But the other thing is, there's so many wrestling matches happening. Generally, especially if you're a wrestling fan, you go and see a lot of them. Finding something new is very difficult. It's finding something new that is legible. There's a bit like a sonnet in a way, in that the restrictions sort of give you parameters to be creative with, but it is difficult. I know what I would also say about the speed thing. There's a sort of old head bit of advice is, if you think you're going too fast, slow down. Because when you're in the ring And like, so when you're on a stage performing on music, the crowd's on, you know, in front of you for the most part. In the ring, they're on at least 3 sides usually. And when you're stood in the ring, you're very aware everybody's looking at you, and everything you do needs to be in service of the match and the story and the characters. And that goes from your facial expressions to how you move and how you talk, and absolutely everything matters. So it is quite intense to have that in the round, and you're just like, oh God, gotta do something, when really what you actually need to do is do very little and sort of soak it in, tell the story.
Completely agree. So again, more insider wrestling talk, but
Yeah,
I go with the Jim Cornette kind of school of thought, which
yes, I'm sympathetic to that as well. I will say, yeah,
he gets criticized a lot, and I'll agree. Sometimes when he's delving into something, he does have a tendency maybe to go a little bit crazy with certain people. But I do understand to some extent, because like when you see the modern product and then you look at like what he was talking about in say the 80s, 90s or whatever, you can see his point a lot of the time. And his point isn't always necessarily like everything that's modern is bad, because he'll bring up when things are good, and he'll say when a guy's got momentum or a girl, or you know, he'll say like when a storyline has potential. But what he doesn't like is anything that kind of exposes the fact that, you know, A, wrestling is, you know, not real, and B, where it makes it look silly. And he and people like JR, for example, always said like anything that just makes it easy to target the wrestling industry and in a kind of comical, judgmental way is never going to be good for the business. And
that again is among the most difficult things. Now, whilst the best will improvise basically everything, that's very uncommon on the sort of the indie circuit, especially for new wrestlers, because as I said, the pressure of like doing something and entertaining does lend yourself, like, and how you've trained is to like, okay, we'll plan what we're going to do. We're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. Even if you plan it out like a story, that's nice. Like, we've got a nice story planned out. We'll do this, we'll do this, we'll do this. Do that without showing signs of collaboration or cooperation. That is the real good thing. And that's very hard. I never managed it. I was wrestling for 10 years, and granted, I wasn't very good, but I never got to the point where I was just like so in it that it seemed organic. It was like I was always trying to like, I was always doing moves, you know what I mean? It's really hard. So it's fun and easy as it is to criticize wrestlers of all levels. It's insanely difficult as a pastime, because not only is it extremely physical, mentally as well, and presentation. And if there are any musicians listening who don't know or don't care about wrestling, there's one thing I can relate to you. Okay, so in your messaging, let's say, in your reels, in your promotional materials, even when you're on stage doing your stage raps, don't shit on the product. So when you're wrestling, if you are a commentator or even if you're there yourself, let's say I'm Wrestler A and I'm going to challenge Chris in a podcast match next Saturday. Okay, what I don't want to say is, this Chris, he's terrible. He can't do a podcast to save his life. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to walk all over him. Because where's the appeal in seeing me, Wrestler A, trounce somebody? You need to sell the fact this is going to be a tough match, a good match, something worth seeing. So I'd say, Chris, he's been podcasting for years. He's a veteran. But maybe there's a weak link. Maybe he's, so you have to build them up. And that goes for yourself. So if you're on stage or if you're on social media, don't, as tempting as it is to be self-deprecating, don't do it all the time. Try to do it, you can leak it out a little bit. I'm the same. It's sort of charming and fun and easy to do. but ultimately you are undermining what you're presenting. You need to be presenting the best, just so that if anybody is seeing it, what they're seeing is you're presenting as, in Swark Strati's case, my band, the greatest band of all time.
It's true. I remember reading something years ago about Vince McMahon's philosophy on marketing with wrestling.
He's one of the best marketers and promoters in world history, for his many, many flaws. He knows what he's doing in that respect.
There were little things there that I found really interesting. Like, for instance, when the WWE Network was a thing, instead of saying something like limited time only, it's going off soon, you'll never see it again, he would avoid using anything like that and only use positive terms like, I don't know, just like this is the greatest pay-per-view of all time, or this is, and yeah, maybe it's embellishment a little bit, but it was always positive, never negative. Yeah. And that's interesting, I think, like with what you're saying, like, I've made the mistake of being self-deprecating many, many times, and some would argue it makes you more endearing, keeps you rooted. I don't believe in the extreme of just only ever being positive.
No, I think there's room for that, but I see you can definitely overdo it on the self-deprecation front for sure. And in the long run, it sort of undermines what it is you're trying to achieve. You're trying to convince people that you are worth seeing, worth booking again, worth paying money to, worth buying a CD, worth putting into your music rotation. So if you're telling them you're no good, then what are they gonna believe?
Did you ever wrestle outside of the UK?
No, never. I was never much of a good wrestler, or B, a good networker, I think.
Oh, okay.
So those two combined really sort of gave me a limited scope.
What would you say? I know obviously you've not wrestled in other countries, but like, what would you say are maybe the distinct? I don't know how to put this. Like, maybe the key elements of British wrestling that distinguishes it from other countries.
Well, it's taken a lot of influence from the Attitude Era. I think that was so era defining that I think the whole world's wrestling has taken a big slice of that out. But the British style is based more in character for sure. A lot of there's more humor in it. But of course you can go too far, as I'm sure Jim Cornette would tell you. There is still a legacy of the World of Sport stuff. Wrestling in the UK was at its biggest in the 70s and 80s. And if you go to, any wedding, the dads and uncles will talk to you about Giant Haystacks and Big Daddy. And those are the sort of belly bashing big boys at the top of the card, but beneath that there was a lot of technicians, like a young Steven Regal, Rollerball Rocco, Mick McManus, and these are all like proper wrestlers, knuckle locks and things like that. And that is still in the right schools. That is still taught as part of the British style. And there's a lot of old British wrestlers in the WWE now in the training centers. So the WWE recognizes the elements of that style that work so well. And they've integrated it, basically. Robbie Brookside was a British wrestler for a long time. He's at the WWE Academy. Dave Taylor, I think, is there. And it's also high. It's also very character-based, You are no doubt as to what your character's up to, who they are. And it's again something you can relate to music. The character and who you are should be apparent within 2 seconds. The opening 4 bars of your theme music, your expression when you come through the curtain, how you walk. The audience should know. They should be able to get an impression and judge on what you're trying to. Well, this is something It's just about eliciting the response you want. So you should be able to get that within, 20 seconds less. just by how you enter and the choices you make doing that.
What would you say were the biggest challenges you experienced as a professional wrestler?
Getting bookings, yeah. But that was probably in large part due to my other challenge, which was quite clumsy physically. Like my hand-eye coordination is okay, but my spatial awareness is bad. So like, sort of flap around a bit, or a hand will go where it shouldn't do, or like I'll accidentally tread on somebody if I'm walking past them, or things like that. So, though I trained, very hard for years to get on shows and get bookings, I think I had sort of 60, 70 in total over the years, some matches. I would have taken a whole new level of dedication to knock that out of me, you know what I mean? And when your movements aren't crisp, there's a lot you can do with shouting and flailing and like character work. But at some point, you've got to like hit some moves together. And if they're not crisp and on rhythm and they look good, it's not legible. The crowd don't pop in the way that you see. He's a professional. I don't know. I'm just going to name drop Martin Kirby because he's one of the Britain's best. But when he wrestles, it's like boom, click, up, down, turn around, hit there. It's all really nice, all super crisp. The crowd know how to react because, to some extent they've been trained. As we say, there's only so many ways you can do a wrestling match, but it's all so easy. Whereas I made it look difficult.
I know. I think maybe you're too hard on yourself. I mean, it's
that's the thing. It does,
difficult profession.
When you know how much there is to know about wrestling and how much goes into it.
It's like the point you said before. Like I really agreed with the concept of like it's so easy to criticize wrestling, but then to actually do it is something else. Because that's always been my perspective is you should only criticize the lack of realism or anything that kind of makes wrestling look silly in some way, which is purely choice based. As far as like just the physicality of it and stuff, like it's hard. Like when you see someone who's training, like I remember back in the day, people would be like, Shane McMahon is not a great wrestler. And it's like, but he was never really supposed to be.
No.
But it didn't matter.
Still had some of the most legendary moments, in
absolutely. And it, it was like you bought it. You bought that this was a guy who'd been training, but just wasn't a professional, but that worked with what they were trying to achieve.
Yeah, and he was the son of the boss. It fit his character perfectly well. Yeah, so that was okay. There is, even if you are bad at the crisp technical elements like I was, the way wrestling is, there's always going to be room. As long as you can get bums on seats, you'll be able to get bookings right. That's the end of the day. That's what it's about. If you can draw a crowd and entertain a crowd, do it however you want, It's like I say with music sometimes, it's easy to fret about mixes and EQs and like recordings and stuff. But as long as something comes out when you press play, that's all you need. Anything else is up to you. But obviously there's me wrestling and there's Bret Hart. We both do the same thing.
So you still did it, man. Not many people can
very
say
proud. I am proud of what I achieved. The fact I got to have matches and I was a tag team champion, Grand Pro Wrestling, 2 times. There's some excellent photographs, that's the main thing, isn't it? Yeah, I'm proud of what I did. I changed my life completely. Before I took it up, I'd had meningitis when I was 18. Very lucky to survive with my life and limbs, but it did sort of any of the casual sports and rough and tumble muscle all atrophied because I was in hospital for 6 weeks. And then when I came back from university, I met a guy at university who happened to wrestle as well as working at Blockbuster. And then before that, I didn't really know it was an option. Like I was a fan. I used to watch WCW on Channel 5. I played the video games. I was into it. And I didn't realize you could just go along and do it. When I got back to Manchester, I looked it up. And yeah, very proud that I stuck through the hard training for 2 years till I got my first match. And it changed my life. Before then, I'd run around and play sports, but I never ate properly or started weightlifting or anything like that. Once I applied those, and if you go on a proper shred and like eat like a bodybuilder and train like a bodybuilder for 12 weeks, 16 weeks, it is a life-changing experience. You're like, you it's quite profound how you connect with your body at that point, because it takes a long time, unfortunately, but like you feel and see the direct results of what you've done over this long period. And I've not looked back. Like I've been into health and fitness ever since, and I was a much happier person who got much more attention from people. Probably because I was happy. No, I had pecs, sure, but I was also like a lot sunnier as a person, just because I was like eating well and occasionally having sex, and just like completely changed my life. So recommend to anybody.
What would you say was your most memorable moment as a wrestler?
Probably the second dumpster match. So I have to. Oh, how long have we got? Because it's a bit of a tale. Right. So when I first started my first tag team, it was 2012. The Olympics were on.
Nice.
Me and my other trainee pal were put together as a team just to get hammered by the reigning tag team. Jobbers, as the inside term goes. We were Mike Track, Ian Field, track and field. And it was essentially a 118 lift off. We had the vests. We didn't have the tashes, but it was that level of enthusiasm and silliness. With themed moves, like, and we'd do press ups and, all kinds of things. And we got over somehow, and lost again and again. There's that arrangement. But then after a while, this manager figure who was in the federation was looking to form a new tag team, the Midnight Dream Connection, and he gave me his card, and so I took that away. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the tag division here at Grand Pro Wrestling, you had Bin Man and Cyanide, known as Toxic Waste. And they were up against the Bad Lads for the number one contender, right, for the tag team titles. Only the Bad Lads jumped Cyanide before the show. It was just Bin Man and the Bad Lads in a handicap match, 2-on-1. They hammered him down, but the Bad Lads are sort of like stupid in a way and let it slip. Courageous Bin Man managed to get the win. All the others are against him. He's the number one contender, right? But then comes the manager of the tag team champions, the Island Brothers, and he's like, Bin Man, your tag team title shot is right now, after he's just had that handicap match. And he's not got a tag partner, so he's getting circled by the Island Brothers. I can't say. And then who came to the rescue? I came flying out to form this tag team, the Midnight Dream Connection, with Bin Man. And we flipped out there and we won the title. First time out together, 5-minute win. And the Midnight Dream Connection became the Midnight Bin Collection. And we went on to be 2 times tag team champs. And at one point we had 3 dumpster matches because I had Bin Man on my team, so that was always going to happen. And at one point you have to throw them in the big wheelie bin and close the lid, crucially, to win the match. And there's a point I got chucked in there, and inside there was like a fur coat and a change of vest. So whilst the match was going on and the lid was still open, I was able to change clothes and then burst out with a fur coat on and start laying into people. And then I got hit with a chair, so...
What was it like getting hit?
That's probably the one I remember the most.
What was it like getting hit with a chair?
With most of the things in wrestling, the adrenaline is going, so you don't really notice it that much until afterwards. Most things, even when I got my head split open, because long story short, Bin Man turned out to be a bit of we lost a few title shots, and he started blaming me for taking the pins. I did take the pins, but usually he'd tried some sort of mad dive out the ring, like a high risk maneuver, ended up getting wiped out, leaving me with a 2-on-1. And I would eat the pin, and then he says, that's my fault. Turns on me. We had to have a dumpster match to sort that out. But at some point he kicked me in the head with some like steel toes, and I literally just split my head open. And I remember like just going like, ooh, that hurt. I'll just lie down here for a second. And then there was like blood on the mat and everything. Yeah, that was it. That was the extent. It was like, oh, that hurt. Because your adrenaline is so pumped from the crowd, and because you've been jumping around for 3 minutes already, you don't really notice unless it's, it would have to really, really be something bad to take you out. You just hit and go on, and then in the next 2 days you go, oh, bruise there. Oh, a bruise there. Well, that hurts. So one thing it does teach you is durability. Learning to pro wrestle, I reckon, you can get hit by a car and sort of bounce off it a little bit just because you're just so used to getting pounded.
What would you say are maybe some of the worst experiences you had wrestling, if any?
Mostly positive, like I sometimes feel like I didn't, connect well enough with the people around me. I think I had like a couple of people who I was like really close to, but outside of that home federation, I don't think I think I used to like do the training and then go like, oh, that was a tough couple of hours training. I'm going home, bye. And just like walk straight off. Probably could have made more of like talking to people and getting to know people. And as time went on, you could see these like groups form, friendship groups. Fair enough. I wasn't making much of an effort to ingratiate myself, but it did feel a bit, like, oh yeah, they're all in the car, they're all getting bookings over there, they're all doing this and that, they're all having a great time. So yeah, I think that's probably due to me being a bit blithe to social skills, but yeah. And there was a time I tried to do the high jump. So when we were track and field, I was like, right, let's get some themed moves here. What I'll do the Fosbury flop over the top rope to the outside. Seems thematically perfect. I'm sure you'll agree. We were in training and I was just practicing it. We had a sort of a crash mat down, so I'd be like, okay, here we go. I did the year 7 sports day high jump, so I was like, I could do a Fosbury flop. Easy. Did it and sort of clipped the rope and messed up, and I was like, no, that does feel a bit high risk, because from the ring to the top rope is like, 5.5 feet or something, but from the top rope to the floor is more like 8 to 9 feet. And so someone was, I missed that, I'll do it again. So I tried to do it again, clipped the rope again, ended up landing on my face on this crash mat, and then my legs scorpioned over. It's like over the top, and I had this sort of strange warm feeling in my neck. But that was fun. But that's probably as bad as it got danger wise, and then that's when I started to lean towards a low risk style after that, because I do not have the coordination for anything other than that.
Why did you decide to retire from professional wrestling?
Well, COVID. Wrestling is the most non-COVID thing possible. They had a quick go at it in a few feds doing like no crowd matches, but it's so much about the crowd. It's kind of stupid to not do it. So not only is wrestling itself not COVID, not being a crowd was not COVID. So there was that, and then my home fed didn't run shows for a couple of years. I was getting spot bookings here and there, but as I got into like after COVID, I was getting a few bookings here and there, but I was sort of to the point where, I was still scrabbling for connections and networking and booking as if I'd just started, even though I've been doing it for over 10 years and had that much experience and knowledge about it. I was still scrabbling for bookings like I hadn't done anything, And like I said, I was fully aware of my own limitations. Like I was under no illusions that I wasn't particularly good. And then some like younger people came through. Some of them were just like little and, didn't lift that much. But then every so often you'd be like, oh, this guy's 20, jacked and like moves incredibly. That's like, that's not me anymore. Yeah, it wasn't. It was loads of little things. Like I wasn't a fan of the prevailing style. Lots of dives, lots of kicking out at 2 is still an epidemic. You can thank Shawn Michaels, The Undertaker, for that one. Like they had that one WrestleMania match where they just kicked out of everything and it was incredible. But then everybody now wants to do that on every show, in every match. That happens a lot. Lots of dives, which I don't really do, and look a bit coordinated most of the time. People will gather outside the ring and go, "Ooh, here we go, staggering, looking right at him, and here he comes." So yeah, the prevailing. I wasn't good enough to be a vanguard of a different style. I wasn't like, yeah, let me show him how you do it, real style. You just like, And then, I'd got there. I'd got in as far as the Northwest had gone anyway. Like I'd got at least to the level where like people knew me, my face and name, even if they weren't like, seeing me on shows all that often. I was still like around and like, I'd sort of made the scene, and the next high level was kind of the highest level, or at least, one in between level maybe. And it wasn't as aspirational, once I'd got on shows and I'd seen the scene, I was like, yeah, it sounds, but there wasn't like seeing shows and people and being like, I've got to be with them. I've got to be on that show. I've got to be hanging out with these cool dudes, That side of it wasn't really there. And I just wanted to, just what I found was going to hustle around, perform in front of 20 people. I'll do it for the band, And what you said at the start, I've been in this band 2 years. I've already been paid more than I was in 10 years of pro wrestling.
Wow.
And that's like, getting paid to be in a band's not that lucrative or common. So that goes to show what it's like in pro wrestling, because there'll always be somebody wanting to work for less because they love wrestling, And there's always a promoter willing to pay them less.
What did professional wrestling teach you about life?
I mean, you can't turn it off. Like, in terms of, I say it to like my partner sometimes, I am like presentation pilled completely. So as we were saying before about like not self-deprecating, or when you come out of the curtain, everything within 20 seconds will give people enough of a thing to go on. You can't turn that off. And the minutiae of pro wrestling is infinite, because all of it is like lots of tiny details in this big house of cards. And it just bleeds into your whole life. So anything related to presentation whatsoever, which is everything, how anybody sees the world, how you see the world, especially if you are like making an effort to present something, you can't turn off the wrestling brain of like, what am I saying with these choices? How many more choices can I make to better get across what it is I want?
Thanks for sharing. Appreciate it. Let's move it forward. Tell me about your experience on the television show Naked Attraction.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's like, for all the things that I've done, wrestled and played gigs and been in a Bollywood movie or whatever, that's people stop me in Manchester to say like, or more accurately, more often they say, how do I know you from somewhere? They're not usually grassroots punk or pro wrestling fans. It's usually because they've seen me on that. It's great. I mean, recommend it to anybody, it's a great icebreaker. People love to talk about it. I've spent my whole life collecting icebreakers by the sounds of it. So I'm really good at weddings and inductions, because I can just talk about wrestling or Naked Attraction the whole time. I'd do it again. No, but I've been on twice. I don't think anybody's done 3, so maybe I'll go for the 3.
So there's a few things I wanted to ask you about that.
Ask away.
Yeah,
I'm largely an open book.
It's incredible to go on it once. Twice. I mean, what was the reason in there?
I was in the booth. I just applied to go on anyway, and then the producers just decide, how they're going to fit everybody in who's applied. A friend of mine saw they were auditioning on Facebook, sent it to me and said, "Seems like the kind of thing you'd want to do." So yeah, being naked on TV is a funny idea. I think it's definitely, being naked on TV is not a big deal as it would have been because people don't watch TV, but there's still enough, enough of a stunt in there to appeal to me to be naked on TV. So that was my main motivation, was just so I could be naked on TV, because wow, what an opportunity. Why would I not do that? What a way to separate myself from other people. And I was first in the booth, and then they had us dancing in the booths, and I was obviously doing a great job. So they were like, "Let's have you back. Let's have you back as a chooser instead." So they did in the next series, brought me back to do it again.
That's right. I forgot that they do that. Yeah. Okay. I'll ask some questions about just your general feeling, and we'll go back to kind of like the logistics and how it works and stuff. So, would you say it improved your confidence in your body and just yourself in any way?
No, I also always been, since school. I mean, I was in the band I mentioned in high school was a hair metal band. So like, that's the kind of affected arrogance I've been training my whole life. So it's like, I was just like, yeah, great. I've been, wrestling and weightlifting for 10 years up to that point. And again, that's all very much like exhibitionism, So I was just happy to do it. It hasn't really changed the way I looked at myself. No, there's things I would have done differently if I went back round again, but I certainly don't regret it.
What's it like being naked in a TV studio in front of people?
Yeah, fun. And the crowds, the crew and the host Anna, they're all like super friendly and welcoming and stuff. And then when you're in the booth, you've got like a crew of other booth people that you walk around with for the afternoon. Yeah, it's all really nice. I made the mistake the first time I went in of like thinking, oh, I need to, have as much abs as possible for this. So I like underate, but anybody with a decent amount of muscle, if you don't eat to maintain what your body requires, you start like shivering and going cold as your body's like, oh, what are you doing? I need a certain amount of calories to maintain this. So I ended up sort of shivering in the booth and like going into retreat for one of which is the worst thing I could have done. So don't do that. Pro tip if you're ever going on. Just eat enough food.
Did you because I didn't watch the episodes. I wanted to just kind of keep open about it and just because I've seen the show. I know how it works.
Yeah.
So did you get picked to go on a date?
No, not when I was a booth person. No,
Mm-hmm.
I went out in the third round or something.
Okay.
Which is fair. They're like, when you're a booth person, you don't have much choice anyway. And I think we wouldn't have been a good match, full stop. So I wasn't too bothered about that.
Yeah, I always find. Okay, I'm just gonna say this, right?
Uh-huh.
Television is often fabricated bullshit. We know this, right?
Yeah,
I know. I'm blowing minds here.
Yeah.
I was aware of this show many years ago. I rediscovered it with my partner. We were just in some hotel somewhere on a trip, and we never watched TV, so it was like TV on. Oh fuck, Naked Attraction, haha, and it was hilarious. There was a woman on who was sort of in her mid-40s, and she was the chooser. And she was very specific. She was like, I want a guy, early 20s, this kind of situation, long-term boyfriend, and I maybe want to have kids. I'm pretty sure I want to have kids. And in the end, she chose a guy who was in his early 60s, built massively, and just nothing not in any way what she said she wanted.
Yeah.
They do the return thing when they like show them dating and everything, and then the aftermath. And I don't know, it kind of seemed like they slept and never saw each other again, and she was upset about that. And I was kind of like, okay, is this authentic, or is this just like made up for TV BS? So bringing that back to your own experience.
Yeah.
Obviously, as the chooser, you were guaranteed to date someone, to pick someone.
Yeah.
So yeah, she chose someone. You go out on the date. Now, run me through this. So they set you up a date, right? They set you up a date situation.
Place to go, and they make you drinks and film you, have a little chat. Yeah.
So, what's it like being filmed having a date?
Well, they give you, if you drink, they'll provide as much booze as you want, really. So you can easily sort of knock that off. Again, I'm pretty familiar with like cameras and stuff, and the person I picked is very chatty, very like easy to get on with. So like it was great. We didn't have much problem at all.
Often with these situations on the show, that people do end up dating for real, which is great. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Did you guys end up dating?
No. No.
I feel like there's a story there.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Yeah, they
you don't have to share it if you don't want to. I was just curious.
They ended up saying some shit after the date.
Is that something that you had
after we'd had the catch up chat, and that was formally rejected. Again, sidebar to the Jim Cornette School. Whilst this was just after COVID, so it could have been a good springboard for more wrestling bookings. But what is this presentation saying about this wrestler? He does not, you know what I mean? Like, if you want to present as a wrestler, especially one that leans into aesthetics as I did, you got to be presenting as like, yeah, sex machine, gets all really cool, no problem in getting women, all that stuff. What happened to me is I got like quietly and nicely rejected, and didn't get a semi. So like I think the Jim Cornette School of Wrestling presentation, this did not do well for my prospects as a nationally renowned wrestler. In fact, I don't think I got any bookings off the back of it.
Was there anything odd about the experience, the behind the scenes, anything that was just kind of shocking or interesting in some way?
No, it was all very casual, it was pretty novel. I had to sign a thing which said that they can use my contribution to do whatever, whenever, throughout the universe. Yeah. That was quite interesting to read. But, because I wanted to be naked on TV, I was just like, yeah. So if there's any holograms of me running around committing crimes in, 20 years' time, that'll be where they got the data. But at least with me, I'll be looking good, so that's okay.
Overall, would you say the show is positive in terms of, because the whole point initially when it was set up was supposed to be like to celebrate people's bodies and to promote just people's bodies in general. There is I mean, it is very, very superficial as a concept. It's a bit like Tinder before Tinder.
Yeah.
Do you think it's a positive show, or do you think it kind of like sensationalizes sexuality, or just
having a cake and eating it a little bit? But I'd do that if I could as well. And they do. It is, in terms of bodies that you have shown on TV, they're definitely real bodies a lot of the time. Most of the time, they are like, these are normal people's bodies, which in terms of what is presented on TV and on social media and everything like that, then there's not many other outlets that do actually put that kind of body out there. So that's a win. It's obviously the appeal is like naked on TV, picking somebody based on naked attraction. So it's a bit of having a cake and eating thing, but yeah, why not? It's a good thing, I think. Like, it's breaking ground at least, I
agree. I just constructed the question in that way just to kind of see how you feel about it. I personally completely agree with you. I really like the presentation of the show. I think it's I never got anything really negative from it. I just thought like, okay, it's a bit kind of like out there.
Yeah.
And it's kind of shocking when it first came around, but no.
Yeah, you still get paraded naked bodies, sure, but like it was actually a very non-sexual environment, as like in terms of like walking around, even the picking and choosing and like the discussions and everything. It's very non-sexual, the whole thing, you know. It wasn't like you wouldn't have got aroused or anything really, just because it was all quite, I say it was all non-sexualized really.
So is that when people talk about like acting sex scenes in films and they're like, oh, was it hard, you know, not getting aroused? And it's like, bro, there's a fucking camera crew and like there's like 30
and a boob mic and
there's like everyone's staring at you. Like if anything, it's a horrible experience from that sense. Like it's just
But one thing about I did like that I thought was psychologically interesting about it. I wondered in retrospect. So there's a book called Black Box Thinking by what's it called? He's a table tennis champion. Used to write for Matthew Syed, and it's a very interesting book that juxtaposes the reaction to disasters in aviation and the NHS. In aviation, they look at absolutely every part of it and then implement things that means it can never happen again. In healthcare, they go like, oof, you know, things happen. He's not a bad guy. You know, sorry about that. And one of the chapters, he's talking about how he observed university students before they were going to go have an exam the next day. They were out drinking, right? When they knew full well this is not best preparation to do before an exam. But he realized it was their sort of like pre-building an excuse for not doing well into it. So it's obviously completely self-destructive and fallacious thinking, but that was like the idea behind it was like, oh, well, you know, I went out drinking. Of course I didn't do that well. And after a few months, I thought, so in terms of my ambitions as a performer and I guess as a performer, yeah, which I would love to do full time and all of that instead of a day job, was doing Naked Attraction in a sense throwing in the towel for like mainstream success, because how many potential jobs would I be no longer tenable for because I've been naked on TV? And is the fun idea of like, I want to be naked on TV, to what extent was I going, well, I can't do that job, I'll never get the GMTV, Jesus Christ, I'll never get the Granada Reports job now, I'll never get the I'll never get
I'm sorry the GMT gig didn't work out, brother.
So that's just, I'm obviously, it's a very interesting thing to do, go on Naked Attraction, and that was part of it. I think that was maybe now, but maybe I've sort of like just said like, screw a mainstream attempt, I'm throwing in the towel, I put my dick on TV as a sort of like, fuck you, I don't know, I'm just gonna get rid of that.
With the types of people we are, like, we've both lived and done things in the quote unquote normal world, and then we've both done things in the sort of creative space, which can be quite fucking out there, and I don't know, I'm like yourself, I'm kind of at home with the chaos, whereas I feel like the standard world to me is crazy. And like the people talk about the 9 to 5, and I'm like, that's my idea of hell on earth. And it is just a fucking desk job, but to me that's like, I'd go crazy, right? So I can completely understand where you're coming from. But I don't know, I look at these things like, does me doing this thing prevent me from actually doing these things, or is it just all based on reputation and you're worried this will affect your reputation? It's like, so fucking what? You know what I mean? Like, I think it says more about society than it does about you, really.
Yeah, so I suppose the old Groucho Marx thing, I wouldn't want to join any club that would have me as a member. Anybody who would reject me on the basis of being on Naked Attraction, what kind of operation are you running here? Yes, acts. It's only a bit of dick.
Just go back to what you're saying before. Like I think generally the presentation of the show was positive. You know, I never. If you look at like some of the stuff that's on TV now, like things like Love Island, I'd say that is more of a negative show to go on, because the whole premise is people getting together to have sex and drama and all that, and it's like, yeah. Whereas Naked Attraction was kind of hit and miss. You either had people that were going on the show who, you know, it's very well known, plenty of people go on TV just to be on TV to build something else, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It does bring the question when it comes to reality TV, though, of like, this isn't real, and it's like it never has been. But then there's like real instances where people get together and sometimes they end up being together forever, which is awesome. So there's like a reason to watch it. Do you know what I mean? And then there's the whole, just as you said, like looking at the human body and how people actually look. And
compared to Love Island, I'm sure it's a lot more realistic in that respect.
Yeah. But anyway, I could talk with you all day about this, but I think we should move on. Thanks for sharing though. Really appreciate it. So we've both been on television. We've both done film. We both share a love of professional wrestling. Mm-hmm. And also, we both have been in Bollywood movies. I've been in 5.
No way. 5? Oh my God. Look me up. Who's your agent? Give me a go.
Oh, no. It was a nightmare. It was an experience. It was an experience. But I'd never do it again.
Well, how did you get into at what point did you decide to never do it again? After the 5th one, or, you know?
Okay, so I decided after 4. The 5th one was like, I got it through the reason why, and this is not against Bollywood films in general, it's just the particular production company that was producing all of these films.
Yeah.
With the exception of one. One of them was fine. Actually, no, 2 of them were fine, 3 of them were bad. And the 2 that were fine, different production companies. It was interesting how they do their film work, totally different to anything I've ever seen. It was interesting. But one thing they're all, and this was the deciding factor for me, they're all guilty of is not paying on time. The law says you got to pay within 90 days, and they went over that time and time again. And so when it came to the final time, I was messaging like an intermediary talent agency. So they weren't representing me, but like you can apply for these ones where it's like Talent Talks. You heard of Talent Talks, right? Yeah. So for anyone who doesn't know, there's ones that you can sign up with where you're not actually signed to them, but if you do get something through them, it works the same as a standard contract would work. So they get their cut and everything. And Talent Talks is great. Nothing bad to say about those guys. Every time I've worked with them, they're great. But I was messaging a contact from there, and I was like, okay, listen, the last time I worked with these people, I didn't get paid for like 4 months. Can you guarantee I'll get paid and that you'll facilitate that? And they were like, yes. And then it became just endless emails. And I knew they couldn't do anything about it because they were just the intermediary. And they were saying, hey, yeah, we keep emailing and we just keep getting pushed away. And eventually I got paid like, I don't know, 6 months later. I was just like, this is a joke. Like, this is stupid.
So were they all filming in the UK or did they need a EU and they flew you out to India?
Oh, that would be amazing. No, it was all in the UK. I think it's an experience, like all experiences. I think it's an experience to have. I was pretty impressed with how they're very loose with filming and like they don't do more than one take, which I was like, that's risky. But they're very like, they do not waste time. They're just like, boom, in, done, next shot. And I'm like, wow, never seen that before. So you were on a Bollywood movie called Shandar. Please tell me about your experience.
Yeah. Well, it was a very brief walk-on role, but it turned out to be absolutely pivotal to the plot. They couldn't cut me out.
Nice.
I had a friend of mine who was working on locations for the movie. It was Bollywood's first destination wedding film. And they were on the beach in Redcar. And without we just went. They needed muscly people, so my friend who worked in the film said, "Oh, I know 2 guys." Me and my friend Russ went along, and we got cast as stud boys 1 and 2, and we just had to like walk down the beach, hit the mark, say a couple of lines to these actors, but they left us around waiting all day. We sat around. We had 2 lunches because we were waiting so long. I didn't undereat this time. I can say that much. And then my friend hadn't acted before, and I was pretty, I was just resting, which is quite different, really. And we kept like not doing the line right or like missing the mark a little bit. And meanwhile, the tide's coming in, the light's going. They took my line off, and just to sort of simplify things. And what I realized afterwards, the line as written was a bit unnatural. It was like, "Would you like one?" Right? These girls were sitting on the beach, and we had some mystery brownies and mystery mushrooms that we were like walking down the beach with, and then we would give them some. The whole family has a hallucinatory trip setting up the second act of the film, whatever. But the line as written was like, "Would you like one?" or something like that. And what I didn't have the confidence to do, because this was one of my first proper film sets that I'd been on, because it was all the whole Bollywood world. If we'd use something more natural, rather than reading the line just straightforward, "Would you like one?" If we'd said something more how I'd actually say it, like, "Do you want one?" or "You fancy one of these?" Something that actually like fit a normal vernacular to us, that would have gone much better. And like we were just walking along the beach to our mark. Whereas, again, if I thought about it, like there's definitely room for improvisation there. Looking back on the film, it's very staid, but because we were essential to the plot, I had to use it. Whereas if we'd been natural and like if we'd taken a moment to be like, okay, how can we lift this and make what we're doing interesting and like ring true and sound a lot better, it would have been our performance, at least, would have been so much better. The net result would have been the same because we were giving the brownies and they had a hallucinatory experience. But yeah, that's something I wish I could do that again, because I would have done a lot more with it. Not blowing up my role, so to speak, but just sort of making what I had. I did have the confidence to say to the director, like, "Can I say it like this?" And I'm sure he would have been like, "Yes, fine, good, that's better. Do you want one of these?" As opposed to, "Would you like one too?" You know what I mean? That just because this line was so.
Do you want one?
Do you want one? Yeah, yeah. So that's something I learned from that experience. But I wish I'd had the presence of mind to make it better as I went. But then, like I said, they had to use it because it was integral to the film. And there I am, about an hour and a half into Shandar, stud boy number 2, I think.
Would you say you've learned to do that now in life, like to speak your mind and kind of in situations like that?
Yeah, I think people are more open to collaboration than you might fear when you're starting out, and if you don't ask, you don't get. You can always be told no, and that's not bad. So I've not had a lot of many more lines in films or whatever, but yeah, I would definitely know to like. I think that's part of just being older. You're just more comfortable suggesting things.
You were on a film that had David Tennant on.
Yeah,
the lead.
You, Me and Him, I think it's called. Not to be confused with You, Me and Her, the TV show that came out about the same time. Again, that was a learning experience, and another bit role. I was a baby butler. For a hen party or something, or a baby shower.
Oh,
yeah. And I was sort of like, my job was to sort of stand there, exchange a look with Sam and Bird, which was fun because I'd seen him on TV. And then he then struck up a conversation with somebody else, and I was still in shot, stood there, and I was supposed to be still, but like felt that I didn't want to be too still. Like didn't want to be like rock still. So I was sort of trying to give like little reactions, small scale reactions to what he was saying, because they did refer to me sort of at some point. Because, well, that's not, yeah, they allude to me, and I sort of had to react a little bit. Something I learned when I actually watched the film, you can really see my wrestling training, because I'm doing eye acting for the back row. I'm doing little row Z eye acting, whereas the camera is like massive lens, 4 foot away from my face. And it's like, for me, it like ruins the scene, because you can see my eyes go like moving like that. So that's another lesson learned. Wrestling acting and having the camera right in front of you is very different.
What was Simon Bird like?
Very nice. Yeah, we didn't chat too much, but he was, easy to play off. Yeah, everybody on that set was really, really friendly. Most people in most sets are all, very friendly. Very rarely, none come to mind. Anybody like has been a dickhead or anything.
Did you meet David Tennant?
I don't think I was introduced, but he was there. He was in the room.
And how was he on set? Like, anything? Did you pick up anything with him?
No, he sort of came in and did his scene. Really, it was I think his wife was the director.
Cool.
So it was all a bit of a, it was all quite casual.
Solid, man. What would you say, in addition to these, what were some of the best extras experiences or acting experiences you've had?
Well, but I think Bollywood movie tops them, just because I've got it, I've got it on DVD, and it was a big movie. It was like the director's follow-up to a massive success. So it got a wide release over in India. So
you're a megastar in India.
DMs about it, but I imagine millions and millions and millions of people saw it. I mean, that's kind of crazy. So that would be top for me.
Some of your worst experiences
on the spot. A recall is terrible. Also, the thing about being a wrestler, I have bad recall. Remembering what we agreed to do is not my strong point.
What, talk about your life?
Yeah, I can just about pull that around. I don't mind waiting around, to be honest. As long as they're paying me, I've got no problem with sitting around doing nothing. So
it's one of them, innit? It's like I'm doing a film tomorrow, and there's going to be some waiting around. It's just part of acting. It is what it is.
Yeah, for sure.
But it can be frustrating sometimes when it's been a long time. And because the reality of acting as well is it's like you're waiting for ages, and then suddenly when you're not expecting it, boom, you have to be ready, and you're just almost never ready. And then you kind of feel bad because you look bad because you're not ready. So it seems like you're not paying attention or you're not invested. Yeah. But it's like no, I am. But I was ready like 5 hours ago. You know what I mean? So
that's the acting's not. It's one thing to pretend to be doing something, but to be able to suspend disbelief and make it seem like it's real is incredibly difficult. Especially you have to do it out of actual reality. You then have to clip, and then, like you said, you have to be on in this other headspace without giving any impression that you're in fact, been waiting around for 5 hours and are reading lines. Incredibly difficult. Once you've seen yourself back trying to act, that's when you realize, oh, it's not just about hitting the mark and saying the line. There is a whole tingling energy you need to lock into. I found that when I was doing wrestling promos, on the mic in the ring or on camera, the best stuff would always come when you get that sense that you're on the edge and you're start butterflying a little bit, and you that's when the best stuff would come out, because you were inhabiting the tightrope, of that moment.
Well, it's improv, really, isn't it? I think that's the key, is you're feeling it, like you said, and obviously in professional wrestling, that's what it's all about. You always hear wrestlers talk about feeling the crowd, feeling the room, the energy, and jumping into that. And I suppose it doesn't really apply with acting. However, if you get enough into your head and you get into the character enough, you can draw that out, or sometimes you can play off the other person in the scene, and then you get to the good stuff. But
to inhabit the the scene. You know, you need to actually. You're not just pretending like you've been there. You're feeling like you've been there, like you've walked in from another room, but you've been. What's your character been doing for the last half an hour, not just what you, the actor, has been doing. But I'm always wanting to try more, and I give anything a go, to be honest.
You've got a great attitude, man. I dig it. Right, a couple of final questions to round off today's show.
Okay, go ahead.
You ready?
Yes.
Let's go. What work would you never do again?
Ooh, I've been lucky, to be honest. I don't think I'm pretty high level of tolerance for corporate life. I never do again. You're really hitting my bad recall senses here. I'm sorry, I've got nothing for you.
It's okay.
Skip that.
It's all good, man. It's all good.
No regrets, obviously. I know when I'm in it.
It's good to hear that. I mean, that's the thing with the questions I ask as well. Is like you don't have to respond. Like if it's just like, hey, yeah, I enjoyed the work. There wasn't any bad experiences. Like that's great. That's a good thing. Good. But I'm going to carry on with some negativity here. So what's the worst advice you've ever received?
Well, you asked me this when I was on with the band, and I didn't have anything. I should have thought ahead.
Should have planned it meticulously. I'm just deeply betrayed right now. What comes to mind? A criticism or an opinion, or I'm sure you've had many people over the years turn around and tell you things like, well, you should be doing this, or have you thought about this?
Sorry, man, this whole segment's a bust. I apologize.
Nah, you don't have to apologize, man. Let's flip it. Let's go positive. What's the best advice you've ever received?
I gave you that sex tip last time, didn't I? I'll try to think of something a bit better.
It was a good one.
Saying yes is quite a good one. I have sort of reached the logical conclusion of that at sort of 38, where I'm now like just so busy doing things that I don't have any time for myself. But along the way, I've got so much out of just like saying yes to offers. It's easy to find reasons not to do things. Say yes, you'll more likely to do it for sure. And calendars, like the guy who taught me wrestling, I noticed he used his calendar a lot, and ever since, that's what I do. And if you find yourself having conversations all the time where people are like, oh, we should do this, oh, we should do that. Like you're out with somebody and they're like, oh, we should do this, oh, let's do that. My response is, okay, what are you doing July 23rd? I mean, even if you book it 6 weeks in advance, that comes around soon enough, and it makes party bullshit that much more bearable because you've actually made a plan to do it, and more often than not, it happens when you do it. So say yes, and when you do say yes, get your calendar out, stick a date in it.
I live my life by Google Calendar, honestly. It's how I get everything done. Even just basic stuff, I just pop it in there. Now there's no excuse to miss it. What's the biggest life lesson you've learned so far?
Stay hydrated. Drink a lot of water. I take a lot of face value. I think that's good, especially when it comes to texting, and especially if you're on like dating apps and stuff and you're like getting to know people by text. It's a lot easier to take things at face value, especially words, because if you start getting into like second guessing people or like imagining what their motivations were, what did they mean by this, you'll drive yourself insane. So take it at face value. I mean, I think I'm at risk of getting conned at some point by somebody, but for the most part, I like, whatever people say to you, I'm like, yeah, I believe you. I believe you're saying what you want to communicate, and life's easier.
And final question, do you have any upcoming projects or final thoughts that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Yes, Swole Castrati, my band. If you saw the previous episode, me and Carl were on. We got 3 gigs in July, one in Liverpool, one in Stockport, and one in Manchester. Woo! Consult the Instagram or website, swolecastrati.world. Let me check that domain still works. for all the information you need, you can listen to our demo. You can watch our video, the year one video, all the stuff we've done, all the stuff I've done as a creative person, wrestling or music or anything. Most of the time, I'm like, I could have done that better. I wish I could do that again. Yeah, I could do that and improve that. With this year one video that I spent ages editing and hewing with the guys to get like 20 minutes of funny stuff, I watched that, I enjoy it, and I'm like, yeah, I'm happy with it. So it must be great. So if you look at Swarcastrati year one on YouTube, that says it all about us. And if you like that, you'll like us. So come and see us live.
It's been a pleasure having you back on the show, Iain. Thank you so much for appearing, and best of luck with the band and everything. Hope to see you soon. Best.
All right, thanks very much for having me.
Thank you. And to all the listeners of the Christian Reeve Podcast, make sure you check out Swarcastrati and everything that Iain has to offer. Links will be in the bio, wherever you're listening to the show, on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I say listen as well. I keep forgetting this is a podcast sometimes, even though it's been 6 years. It's just natural to say that, like link in the bio, link in the bio, link in the bio. But I'll make sure everything is there. Thank you so much for watching and listening. And as always, be safe, be well, and I'll see you all in the next one.
Things don't work like they used to. Can't place your bets on the 9 to 5. Things don't work like they used to. There's not enough to keep you alive.